Okay. Go for it. You good?
The first panel that we're going to remove is the door switch. So grab a pry tool. Carefully start from the bottom. And the second one, and this is very important, that's the reason why you remove the door switches first, is because this one covering the door handle is so sensitive. You have to pop it from the inside. So as you see, this one has little tabs. You don't want to break those. Then pull the handle. Same this one. It's a 10mm behind the handle. Next, remove the handle. I always start from the bottom and then just kind of pop up. It has so many clips. Behind that we have two 10mm. And grab a big pry tool. Start working your way around. And that's it. To remove the door speakers, it's the same thing. 4 10mm. Next up is the dash speaker. Grab your pry tool. Start from one of the corners. Now this one has a rubber band that you have to pull it out. This one has 3 7mm. Grab your pry tool. And that's just one clip. And you just repeat the process on the driver's side.
To retain the factory bracket off of this 2-inch mid-range to make installation a lot safer, remove the screw. And there is some glue that's going to be holding this in. And there's glue also holding this onto here. Snip off the wire as close to the ends as possible. That way if you ever need to put this back in, you can solder this back on. Take those same cutters and work your way across this side here. This is to remove the glue so that we can get this metal piece off. Once it's off, screw it back onto the speaker. You can set this aside, we're done with it. This is a red and black, and the red is positive, the black is negative. Grabbing our new Kenwood crossover, on one end it has speaker terminals. The positive is solid black, the negative is the striped wire. I'm going to retain this staggered offset that this has. Line them up, cut them. I like to use 1/8 inch heat shrink for this, 2-to-1 shrink. Slide it over my wires. Twist the two wires together and get it nice and tight. Don't have any little burrs or frays sticking off. Soldering gun is nice and hot and prepped and ready to go. Before you do anything with the soldering gun, make sure you clean the tip. With that all shined up, set the soldering gun underneath the wire and let it pull the solder into your twist. Might take a second. Don't camp out on the wire. You don't want to shrink back any of this covering. You also don't want to melt the harness. Repeat on the positive side. It's very important to make sure you don't have any of those stray wires sticking up, because if you do, those can poke through the heat shrink and that could potentially cause a short. If you do, have your flush cutters, because it's going to happen at some point. No one's perfect all the time. And make sure to trim those off. This is all set now. You can leave it like this. I, however, prefer to wrap it with some Tessa tape. It's going to be up in the dash where the sun is going to get to it. For that, I'll be using the exterior Tessa tape, which handles more heat. Wrap and pull as you're wrapping. You don't want this stuff to be loose. At the end, leave enough to wrap around like 2 or 3 times because it sticks best to itself. You'll end up with that, and you can do the same to the other side. This gives it a nice finished look. Now, if you want to be really particular, this is going to be for the driver's side. You could put a little white piece of heat shrink over it. This is a 3-to-1, so it will shrink down over this. This will also keep that tape from unraveling. And we end up with this. Easily gonna plug in. We can put our speaker back up in the dash. Fernando's getting ready to put the new Kenwood in the door, and he's asked me if I could real quick test to see which wire here is positive and negative. For that, I have my PT9A Plus. Turn it on. 2 leads into the end. I can hear that popping sound. I don't need to flip it over. I can measure it from the back. I want to see a red. I'm seeing a green. Flip my terminals. I want to see red. The reason why I want to see the red, we're measuring the back side of the driver. So if I have red on the back side, I'll have green on the front side. That means that my white is positive, my blue is negative. We like to bend the negative down. This is going to be the same terminal throughout the car, so once we've figured out one, we don't have to do this again.
Now that we know which one is positive and which one is negative, put the connectors and screw the speaker on.
One of the reasons why we like to solder that clip on, as you can see, it's really tight up in there. I mean, just getting that speaker out is a pain. And you see how short that wire is. That means it's really nice to just be able to plug it in, slide it into place. You don't want to break the windshield or scratch the top of the dash. We were talking about how the little arms, these little guys here, were going to be too long. And they're made out of plastic, so they are made to be trimmed up. As you can see, this area has a slight rise to it, which is getting in the way. We'll trim those down slowly and make a few cuts to get it just right, and we'll get this screwed in. Well, that one's good. No, that's good. Okay. So you can see it's trimmed off a little bit on each side, the same amount, which has allowed us to get it in there. If you look really close, you can see that gray foam that he put on the back of it that was in the box. With the screws in, the last thing to do is test fit it to make sure it fits. And of course, getting that rubber band clipped back into place. Perfect. With the passenger side all done, we'll move on to the driver's side, get all those speakers in, and then we'll get the back doors off. While he's finishing that up, let's head over to the bench and take a look at the 6.5s we're gonna put in, and of course compare them to the factory ones we're taking out.
For the rear speakers, you're going to repeat the process as the front. Start on the window switch panel with your pry tool. Second part is cover on the door handle. Like we said, this is very important so you don't break the clips. And then the third, four, sometimes these ones are a little bit harder, but they come off. Remove the 310 millimeters, and then grab your pry tool, plastic, prefer. Start from the bottom around, and that's it. For the speakers, same thing, 310 millimeters. Now in this one, we don't have to remove the whole bracket. Let's take it to the bench.